our CEO came to me and he said, Natalie, this should be an IT project, but I'm giving it to you because you're the only one I know that can deliver it.
Wow.
And I was like, is he setting me up for failure? And then as soon as I got past that and I believed his positivity, as women, sometimes we don't believe it, right? We challenge ourselves. As soon as I believed it, I went into action. And I remember thinking like, I'm going to put this team together. We're going to make this happen. We may hit 24 months, but we're going to do this. And if we can get it done in 22 months. But yeah, it's those kind of things where I think you start to believe and you start to see the power of positivity and getting the right people and having positive leadership. And we actually delivered it.
Welcome to the She's So Sweet podcast, where we interview accomplished women who have worked their way to the C-suite. I'm your host, Kristi Faltorusso, Chief Customer Officer and award-winning customer success executive. I am so thrilled to introduce today's guest. I've got Natalie Beckerman, the Global Head of Customer Support Operations at IHG Hotel and Resorts. I got to tell you, Natalie, I was a huge fan when I saw you at CCW back in June, and so I am honored to have you and all of your omelet making skills here today.
Oh, with my omelet making skills, I've moved to scrambled eggs now, but I'll start posting some pictures of those. But I'm super excited to be here. I love your work, and thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so thrilled. And I know, having prepared with you for today's recording, I am really excited for today. I know that you're going to share so much wisdom with our listeners. And so before we get into all that great stuff, I would love for you to just give us a quick overview of your current role, kind of what you're doing, the company, just so that people get a lay of the land and learn a little bit more about you.
Sure. Real quick, Global Head of Customer Support Operations. I basically look after everything customer support. So that's the entire workforce management for our thousands of agents that we have, their own enablement, the tools, quality assurance, our global footprint and locations, outsourcing partners and contracts, and really some of the innovative technology and support we have for our reservations and customer care group.
That's so great. I know that is a large scoped role. I feel like your title almost doesn't do it enough justice to encompass everything that it is that you do there.
Thank you.
All right. Well, listen, I'm sure as much as this role is definitely massive and probably something you really love doing, I'm sure it's not what you always thought you'd do. So I always love to ask all of our guests is, when you think back to when you were young, I'm sure you didn't dream of this role. What was it that you thought you'd be doing?
Yeah, I didn't dream of this role. However, as a kid, I've literally been obsessed with customer service, customer experience, customer satisfaction without even knowing what it was. So never thought I'd work in contact center operations, but a story just to share. When I was a young kid, my mother would drag me to the grocery store. I don't know if your mother did that, but
of course we didn't have choices. There's nobody else watching us. We didn't have iPads.
Back in the day, this is going to age me, but my mother would clip coupons. They were in the Sunday papers. And every time we'd go, she'd match the coupon to what she was buying. And anyway, I begrudgingly went to the store this one time with her, and she was using the coupons. And the woman at the cash register or the till or whatever we call it here was challenging her constantly. And she's like, I don't see that. Where is that? And I'd be like, it's right there, Mom. Like, show her, Mom. And it went on and on and on. And as a kid, I think I was actually 6. And I just felt that she was attacking my mom. She wasn't trusting my mom.
Wow.
She was treating my mom poorly. She was embarrassing us as a customer of this huge brand. And so as it went on, probably after the 10th or 11th time, I grabbed my mom's hand and I went, Mom, that's it. Let's get out of this store. And I don't know where this came from, but I was like, they don't care about us. They don't value. I said this as a kid because the manager heard this and chased us out of the store. But I say all of that because I was very acutely aware as a kid about what it meant to be treated as a customer and what it meant to be valued as a customer. And I think my journey, I have this intense passion inside that we should be customer focused. And after COVID, I think we lost so much of that. And so that's really where my passion and my and my belief about treating people the way they should be treated or deserve to be treated and valued to grow your brand and to drive revenue and to grow sales has kind of come from. So it did start really, really young.
Wow. What a fascinating story. My mom did cut coupons also. In fact, she had one of those like wallets that you opened that had all like
Yes.
the compartments for coupons.
Yeah.
She was very fancy about her coupon cutting and savings, we'll just say.
Yeah.
But I love that story. And so it's so interesting. So how do you think what you saw and kind of your observations early on, how do you feel like that contributed to your journey along the way?
Yeah, so I started in like, actually many people don't know this story, but I started in learning and development and training and kind of internal coaching with our people and our operations. And so I was the one that was helping them get ready for driving greater customer satisfaction, like the how to do it. And so it really, I definitely worked my way up the ladder, not necessarily, linear, but I sort of did this. But starting in training others on how to treat people, the values, the behaviors, and then how to change processes and fix processes and drive processes. And so kind of was Six Sigma trained really early, started using that, and then really went to the operational side. And what's interesting is I've worked across so many different industries and so many different sectors, and it's like the same issues, different sectors. And so I think that passion has always stuck with me about doing things in the right way. I always say, like, I am passionate about doing the right thing, but I'm also passionate about doing it in the right way, both for the company and for the consumer. And so that really stuck with me. And, it really helped drive that journey of where I was going next. And I always have this passion that, like, we can always do better for the customer, like always make it easier, make it simpler, and show them that we really care.
I love that so much. And I'm sure that translates in the work that you do. So let me just dig in here for a second. So are there parts of like that early journey you were on with the learning and development that you don't get to do today that you miss doing?
Well, I am a hands-on leader, probably way more than I should be, but I think that's how you really understand what's going on. But I miss like getting the training pieces. I miss being able to go and I remember setting up one customer satisfaction. We called it like C-step, customer step. And I remember like creating this almost like, I'm going to use this word, but it's not the right word, but almost like this cult in our organization to get people to really buy into valuing the customer and changing behavior. And I was like, I had these C-step shirts made and I had, all this stuff. And I mean, honestly, I probably could have gone to market with this and sold like the pens that we had. But what's amazing is like, with that passion, with that energy, with doing the right thing, you really can bring people on the journey. And then people see the value and their performance metrics go up and they actually are like, wow, I'm actually doing something valuable and we're getting good feedback and our CSAT is going up. So that I miss being able to create these programs that just drive change, that are around learning, around change management and all of that. So yeah, back to the basics.
I love it. So you talked about this journey of having all of these different roles at all these different companies along the way. And so I want to take a moment and like reflect back because you've had quite an impressive journey. I mean, I've got a chance to like hear a bit of your story and look at some of your previous employers. I mean, that it's pretty impressive. So I want you to kind of reflect back for a moment and tell me and share with our listeners, what were some of those pivotal moments from like when you think like maybe like post-education to like where you are today, what were some of those big moments and milestones that you feel like contributed the most to your success?
Yeah, I think like, I've had some great bosses and I've had some not so great bosses. The great bosses are the ones that really challenged me. And I have this belief in my head that like we could deliver anything. We could do it. Like we can make it happen. I used to have I don't know if I'm supposed to swear on here, but like get shit done. I used to have that on my door. Like we can get this done. And I think the pivotal moments are where like either I've come up with something that is wild and crazy, but delivers the results and I have to get that buy-in. So that's like milestone, but also where my boss is like, hey, you got to help us take out 3, 4, 5 million. Can you go figure that out? And I'd be like, you can't do that. And those bosses that would be like, no, I know you can. If anyone can, you can. And it's sort of that like motivation that you have. And I've had some of those stories. And I am someone like my teams will tell you that just keep wanting to be the best and do more and deliver more. And so I think those were the milestones where like maybe I've set a target or my boss has set a target that I think I can't get there, but we rallied the troops to get there. I remember I had one project where we were with Salesforce and we absolutely had, the contract was ending and we had to put a new CRM in, and we had like literally, I think it was 22 weeks. That's unheard of. 22 weeks.
Yeah, it takes people 22 months to get a new CRM instead of
20. Yeah, for some 22 years, but I know. And so this our CEO came to me and he said, Natalie, this should be an IT project, but I'm giving it to you because you're the only one I know that can deliver it.
Wow.
And I was like, is he setting me up for failure? And then as soon as I got past that and I believed his positivity, as women, sometimes we don't believe it, right? We challenge ourselves. As soon as I believed it, I went into action. And I remember thinking like, I'm going to put this team together. We're going to make this happen. We may hit 24 months, but we're going to do this. And if we can get it done in 22 months. And I remember calling up like a consultant to say, I need a PM, get off. He was on a plane. I said, turn around, like get off the plane. He thought I was joking. I was not joking, actually. I was really not joking. I'm actually having dinner with him tonight. But yeah, it's those kind of things where I think you start to believe and you start to see the power of positivity and getting the right people and having positive leadership. And we actually delivered it. We did ask for a month of grace from Salesforce and paid for a month, which is something they don't do or didn't do back then. But we delivered it. And that was through sheer grit and determination and having the ability to bring the team together and bring the right people and lead. And so I those are things that have really paved my journey because they allow me to believe I can do anything else. And I do like those things that are super challenging.
I love it. And, it kind of speaks to the power of like leaders, right? And that the belief and trust and empowerment in your employees.
Yes.
And so clearly that was a huge contributor to your success, which I love to hear. Now I got to flip it around, right? Because we also know that not everything is all sunshine and rainbows. So when we think about our careers, I often like to spend a couple minutes just kind of reflecting on some of the battle scars, because I think that we all need to live in reality. And I never want to paint this fake facade for people to be like, yes, going to the top is great. And here's all the wonderful things that happen along the way. Yes, there is a ton of great stuff. But like, let's live in our truth for a minute. What were some of the big kind of battle scars you earned along the way on your journey?
Yeah, I'll share a couple. I mean, look, my body's full of scars, both from field hockey and work scars, right? But the good news is I'll tell everyone you do learn along the way. And if you can really grab those learnings. I mean, look, I was flying high in my career. I was the COO of a medium-sized company. We unfortunately got a new CEO. It was a woman. She came in. I was flying it. I was killing it. I had these plans in place. I had our parent company was like, whatever you need, Natalie, here you go. And I created a new operating model. And she came in and she's like, this is awful. I hate this operating model. I want to change it. And we were like, we changed all the tech. We put in new IVR. We put in new self-service. It was like so good. And I was like, please just let us try it. Like, let us do this. It's going to work. What you're trying to do is actually going to cost more money. And it was really like a 2-year painful journey of trying to get this woman on our side. And like my team was frustrated. Everyone was like, how much more of this can we do? Do we need to do? And I remember that after 4 years and 2 with her, I sort of said, it's time to go. Like, I did everything I could. It's not going to change. And yet I still categorize that as one of my most successful roles that I've ever had. But those battle scars stay with you. But then as you go on to new opportunities, you realize that there are great leaders out there and wonderful, wonderful leaders, both male and female and men and women who, if they believe in you and they partner with you and they're good leaders and they embrace your creativity, your problem solving power and your passion, then you can also take that same learning and be successful somewhere else. Equally, I had another female boss who, she was probably, I tell people, one of the best bosses I've ever had, because, when I'd get into a bad place, she'd help me out of it instead of like ripping me apart like that woman did, like, no, this is terrible, we can't do it like that. And kind of doing stuff behind my back and bringing, our teams in. It was really awful, and it stays with you. But this woman instead really like helped you get to the place where you should get to, by coaching, through mentoring, through just pure support and positivity and engagement. And I remember we had hired this guy into the team, and we weren't sure about him. And we ended up finding out, long story, but not to go into it, that he was telling us he was coming in at weekends and coaching and then taking time off in the week. And we found out that he wasn't doing what he said. And I was like, how are we going to like get rid of this guy? It was really awful. Wow. And I remember then, as soon as we started challenging him on his behavior, he threw it back at me and was like, he was ex-Army or something. So he was calling me like Ms. Beckerman and Captain, Lieutenant. And I was like, I'm not a lieutenant. I'm not the captain.
Okay.
It was awful. And so she called a meeting between the three of us. And I thought, okay, we're just going to talk it through. And she let this guy speak. It was incredible watching her. And she let him tell her everything that was wrong with the company and everything that was going wrong and everything that was bad about me. And in the end, she said, you clearly can't work here. Can I have your car keys? Because we had company cars at the time. And I was like, that was genius. And if that didn't show me support, I don't know what did. But like,
well, it's so crazy, Natalie. I thought that story was taking a very different turn. You definitely I wasn't expecting that ending. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And it was just like, I literally was watching an expert in action. Like, this woman she was amazing. Wow. But again, that's like the contrast of leadership, right? Yeah. Two different leaders, two C-suite positions. I wasn't, one I was in the C-suite, one I was not. But it's painful, right? And sometimes you're very on your own, and sometimes you just need that one person that either believes in you or fights for you to help you get there. But through all that, you learn who your friends are, you learn who your allies are, and you learn how to make a support network. And sometimes it isn't always within your group, But that story I'll never forget, because it really was like watching a genius in action.
I mean, I am inspired and in awe and kind of jealous that I wasn't there to like be a fly on the wall and watch that, because I've never seen anything like that. But now I want to be like, I want to have that leadership moment where I could pull something like that, where it's like somebody talks about me on a podcast like years from now and says, I watched Kristi and she did this amazing thing and I felt so empowered and supported. And that's amazing. I'm glad you had that moment. And those are the moments we live for, right? Like those are the moments that are life-changing for us, because professionally they teach us something we didn't know. Exactly.
And also I learned from that. Like, I learned that sometimes something that seems so big, she made it so easy. She made it so simple and so unemotional. She took all the emotion.
That is a big thing. Natalie, like, I don't know about you. I'm an emotional person.
Of course.
It is hard for me to remove all my emotion and my passion, good or bad, and redirect that to navigate situations like that. So to your point, I'm like kind of inspired by this.
Yes. Passion is emotion. I never feel bad about my passion, but I've learned how to control the emotion around it. Yes. Yep. She was very, very supportive in doing that.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, I know that like what I love about having you on is like, I know that you were connected on social media, and you know that I shared a similar story today, kind of very broadly, because I've just been seeing the theme of bad female leadership kind of breeding in organizations. And I've seen now HR people share stories, like horror stories from employees. I've heard male people, like male professionals out there, talking about stories that they're hearing from their female counterpoints. I'm seeing people share their own stories. And I kind of felt like for a while, like, oh my gosh, we must have moved past this, because I know you and I, like, we grew up in probably an environment where professionally we didn't see a lot of women in big leadership roles, right? Where we learned from males, right? Like, that's what we emulated. It's what we saw. It's what we knew. And so I was kind of like, oh, we're finally at a place where like women are just empowering women and we're all supportive of one another. And then I like read my feed for the past couple of weeks and it's just littered with these stories that women are still not showing up the way they need to for other women.
Yeah, look, that's so sad. And I don't know if you've been watching the Olympics, but what I love is the showcasing of women showing up for women, right? Yep. We just saw the gymnastics story of the two US. Did. I mean, that is an iconic moment. And I hope they blast it everywhere because that's what we need to do. We need to show up for other women and support other women. And men, we do have allies in the field and there are many that are supportive, but it is sad when women aren't there for other women. And I think like that's definitely something as a woman leader, I'm working to change, as much as I can. I will always be there on the other end of a call or as a mentor if I can, or anything I can do with other women to help guide and coach them and do that.
I love that. And obviously I got to see you in action at CCW in June, and like you very much you practice what you preach, right? So like you did show up, you definitely feel like somebody who's just out there and lifting up the community and empowering your peers. And I loved watching your banter with your co-panelists. And it's clear that you've done a great job fostering the right relationships with the right people to lift each other up. And it's so beautiful. And I encourage other women to do the same. I think it's so important.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was a fun session to be with like other creative and powerful and fun women, and to really kind of, jest, but also to be super passionate about what we believe in and what we do. So,
I loved that. The She's So Sweet podcast is brought to you by Client Success. Client Success is an all-in-one customer success platform to help post-sale implementation and success teams manage customers from new to renew. Through an industry-leading platform approach, Client Success gives businesses an in-depth view into customer health, product usage trends, along with churn and risk data so that your team can not only retain customers, but help them grow as well. Whether it's managing customer onboarding workflows in shared portals, building custom health scores, tracking sentiment with NPS surveys, or doing more with less through AI and automations, Client Success gives customer success professionals a true one-stop platform to manage all aspects of the customer journey. To learn more about the industry's fastest to implement customer success platform, visit www.clientsuccess.com. That's Client Success. Simple, powerful customer success. And so like now let's kind of take a moment to reflect on our successes, because I feel like that's something as women, like I don't think that we're spending enough time like patting ourselves on the back and recognizing all the great things that we've done. I think it's easy for us to just forge forward and look ahead and say, oh, there's so much to do. But let's take a moment, because clearly you didn't get where you are without a ton of success. So when you think back on your journey, what are some of those big things that you're like, man, I did that. I am so proud of myself. Like these are some milestones and accomplishments that I've had in such a positive way.
Yeah, I remember I was working for some reason in my career, I thought I wanted to work for a utility. I don't know what happened to me. Just like I wanted to work for an investment bank. So after I got my MBA, I went to work for an investment bank. It was so awful. But I went to work for this utility. I was like very high up on the executive team for customer service. And I remember the CEO saying to me, like, we have a big culture. He was a very big man. We have a big culture here to shift. And we did regular QBRs with the company for the senior leaders. We had 700 people in the room. And I remember getting up there and I'm like, how many of us think that customer service is our problem? And like literally I could count the hands in the audience. And there were 750 people there. 750. And I was like, man, I have my work cut out for me here, because like, utilities, we're dealing with customer problems all the time. We're digging up the roads. It was water, it was waste. And I remember I put together, I don't know what happened to me, but I was willing to be much more vulnerable then. Like this whole performance on the stage about customer care and customer service. And I got the whole exec team up there to make themselves dance and be vulnerable. But my point really was about everyone has this responsibility for customer service, because everyone touches the customer journey. And I remember having to break down the customer journey. And by, Q4 of the next year, when I asked the same question, every single person in that room that I could see raised their hand that they own customer service. They are responsible. It's not just because those who are either sitting in the contact center or whatever. So I think I've driven a lot, like my successes, and I do remind myself, is really a lot of the cultural shift and mindset, how important satisfaction is. I remember I painted the office like obsessed about customer satisfaction, relentless about resolution all over the walls. Just changing people's mindset and making it okay to do things that are right for the customer, because sometimes we don't have the budget to do it, or we don't. Sometimes just listening a little longer on a call. And so, I've done significant system changes, new organizational models, driving lower costs. And I think I do, as a leader, have to remind myself of those successes when things get tough. When things get really tough, I do remember, like, gosh, how did I do that? Or I can't believe I did that. Because and also one thing I'll say is also recognizing when it's time to move on, when it's time to move to your next journey or your next thing. And that's something I feel very passionate about as a woman leader.
So tell me, like, what are some of the observations you make, or like, how do you know when you're sitting in a role and it's like, it's my time, I have to move? What are the signals to you, or how do you figure that out?
Yeah. So I joke around this. I call these the Beckerman 9. But I ask myself, like, what I'm doing, does it align to my vision or values? Like, does it? Because if it doesn't align to my vision or my values, I'm out of there. Like, that is hard organizations are hard to work in if they're not aligned with you. Yep. Do you as a person embrace failure or disappointment as growth? Can you do that? Right. So if you're in this role and you feel like you're failing, can you see it as growth? Because if you can't, time to go. And then, what do you do to set boundaries? Like, because that's one of our problems as a woman. I was talking about this today on a call about setting boundaries, whether they're big or whether they're small. Like, I work pretty crazy hours. Like, I'm on the West Coast. My company is based in the East, and that we have all these international, and I'm at my desk at like 5:30, 6 o'clock. Sometimes I have to say no to that. Are you able to take calculated risks? Do you see continuous growth? So those things, will you be surrounded by support? Like, I remember I went into one company and I said, can I see your financials? Like, can you actually prove them to me? Because I didn't believe them. And then who are my support? Like, who is my support group? And then again, can you allow yourself to celebrate the successes and the little things? And I think I use all of those, like, to know it's time for me to either stay or to go. And every single one of them, like, tells me the answer.
I love that. I love how, like, structured it is, because it really does become black or white. Because I see people, like, stay in roles far too long and really debate back and forth. Should I stay? Should I go? And they don't have, like, this kind of, like, they don't have the Beckerman 9. They don't have this internal checklist that they can kind of go through to say, you know what, it's time for me to move on, right? This experience is no longer serving me well.
Yes. Yeah. And I talk about that a lot, Kristi, because for me, I'm a very, we talk about being emotional, but I'm very intuitive. And so I feel it deeply when it's time. And it's about listening to your intuition. I talk about a book like The Gift of Fear, but it's about listening to your own intuition. And that is something that I've used more than I can ever speak of, and learning how to use intuition that you have and move from there. And so that's probably one of my biggest learnings is using that gift to figure out that journey and the next step of that journey.
I think it's so important. And I think that more people need to kind of figure out what that needs to look like for them, because I think at some point in your career, right, you're in a role and it's no longer mutually beneficial. Yes. And I talk about that because I think it's important for the company and you to both be getting benefit from you being in that specific position. And if if one side of that party is no longer benefiting, it's not working. And you could be happy as a clam, but if you're not doing your best work and your company is not successful with you in that spot, you have to gut check yourself a little bit there too. And so I think that's important. So I love that. Now, we've kind of hit on this already, but I want to dig in because I know that you do a lot and I want to highlight this. But I love the saying, and I talk about it on every podcast, but empowered women empower women. It seems to be the theme of our conversation today, which was no surprise when you agreed to come on the show, that might be the case. But what are some of the things that you do to empower other women? Like, what are some of the specific initiatives or kind of things that you just commit to regularly to help with that?
So it's funny, post CCW, which you attended, I had literally like tons of calls of people asking me to help them. It was like, and I'm like, do you want coaching? Do you want mentorship? Like, what do you want? And I realized through that like people can't always afford executive coaching. I am a qualified executive coach, and I have really enjoyed being a coach to other women, particularly C-suite women I have done in the past. But these are like the younger and like women who want to get there. Like they're motivated. They're like, how do I get to the next level? And so I'm always helping through phone calls. I'm like, call me anytime. I will tell you when I can speak to you. You just have to be flexible. Sending them messages to check in, like, how are you today? Like, I would love to get one of those in the morning. Like, how is Natalie today? Right? Like, someone sent me that message. And then, I really believe, like, I do come from a sports background, and I believe that sports has really helped me, like, be there for other women. So in October this year, I'm actually going to a hockey reunion at my university, and I can't wait. So excited. But being on a sports field with others really teaches you how to look after other women. And so I will coach. I meet with certain women monthly. I help them on their journeys. I speak at these events. I am there for them. And there are some that I would coach. I mean, I went back to something's telling me people want, like, I have to go back to coaching. And that's what I did after CCW. I started coaching again. Conferences are a great way to be there, to just have some social time with others. But I will always believe that similar to what you believe, that empowered women empower women. And that's one of my favorite things. I got emotional watching some of the Olympics, not because someone won a gold or a medal, but because of the support that, we just saw someone carry, I can't remember what sport it was, carry an opponent, a woman, off the field, like off the court or field. But I love that kind of stuff. Like, that's the stuff we need to showcase, because often in the media and the news, it's women bitching at other women, and we don't want that.
No, it's definitely something that we're working towards actively avoiding at all costs. And so we need to amplify more positivity and empowerment. And listen, I think this also comes from confidence. And I've seen this in a lot of the conversations as well. Confident, secure women aren't threatened by other women. And when you remove that, you behave differently. Right.
And that. So that is so powerful, Kristi.
Isn't that such an interesting observation? Like, think about it. Nobody who is, I think there was I didn't say this, so I'm going to get it wrong, and I'm not responsible for how awesome this is, but it was like the women in front of you are never, like, the women above you or in front of you are never the ones holding you back or like talking bad about you. Right. It's always people that are below you. And it's interesting, because I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, there's nobody who is doing better than me that's ever been like, oh, you're doing horribly or this, that. Any negative feedback or anything that's ever held me back are the people that weren't at my level or weren't aspiring to be where I was. And it's just an interesting thing, right? Like, if you're thinking about where feedback is coming from, is it coming from a good, authentic place that has your best intentions? I don't know.
That's a very powerful observation. And I take that, because if I think about the two examples of the great leader and the not so great leader, the great leader was super confident, like super confident. And didn't even have to exude it. She knew her stuff. She knew her job. She was confident. The other one, the CEO that I spoke about, not confident, didn't understand operations, didn't understand customer care, was getting beaten a little by the parent company. So that makes great sense. I love
Doesn't
that.
It? I know.
Listen,
I want to take credit for that. That was not my observation. Somebody more brilliant than I commented it on my LinkedIn post today with that observation. I was like, damn, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yes.
And I even think about myself and my own behaviors, right? As a leader, the more confident I became, the more I felt safe in bringing others and uplifting others. And even, listen, not even worried about my role or things like that, but just, it's this competitive landscape that we all grew up in, where there was limited opportunities for us, and like, who was the race to the top. But now, guess what? We can all eat. So we need to just check it and just be better.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Okay. Let's spend a few minutes talking about balance, because this comes up in every single person I talk to who thinks about like, okay, anybody, right? Like you have other roles outside of work, right? Maybe you're a partner, you're a mom, maybe you have pets, you've got hobbies, you've got friends. How do you juggle it all? And we talk about this kind of fake sense of balance, because you get to a place where like, there's no such thing as balance. Balance means everything is equal, and that doesn't work. That's not real. So, but how do you create a sense of balance in your life when you have a job as massive as you do, working around as many time zones as you do?
Yeah, no, it's an important question, and I can't sit here and say I've mastered it, because I definitely have not. But I will say I've been on a journey the last 4 months. So what's that, from April? I went on this business trip. I was in a bad place. I was exhausted. I was it was awful. And I said to myself, that's it. I'm going to build time in now for myself. I'm going to start eating properly. How many people say this? I know people say this, and I'm going to exercise. I was an athlete. So like exercise is who I was, and I was fit and I was strong. And I can tell you that I have now blocked my calendar for my workout days, and it's after 5, but I blocked my calendar. And if anything, I will not move that. I just won't move it. Like, I don't care who dies. I'm not moving that. And so for 4 months, I have stuck to my plan. I have stuck to it. I am in so much better shape. I'm so much happier. I'm so much more productive for the time that I'm there. And I'm learning, and I will continue to learn, to say no on certain things. And mentally, I cannot express how important it is to know what you can say no to and be empowering yourself to say no. And so, look, I've had great successes doing that in my career, but I've had lots of lapses. And so I'm not lapsing. Now I'm showing up for myself, and I'm my own CEO for this, and I'm my own coach for this, and I'm doing it. And I'm not going to give up till I get back to the fitness that I want to get to.
I love that. Listen, I always say, like, and again, not my saying, but you can't pour from an empty cup. And it is so important for us to take care of ourselves and fueling ourselves in the right way. And whether that is exercise or a hobby or just, deep-rooted relationships with other people, reading, doesn't matter what it is. But if you're not figuring out what fuels you and using that to your advantage, you're never going to be able to show up the right way for every other aspect of your life.
Exactly. And, also maximizing my home time, like when I'm home, maximizing it, making sure that home time is happy and positive and so forth. So I am in a good place right now. So I'm happy to share that, but it's really easy to lapse. And I think, again, balancing those demands of a job or being a woman or habits that you've let slip, you just have to be strong to learn how, to say no. And this goes back to I don't know if we want to keep calling them the Beckerman 9, but it goes back to like, what is important to you as an individual? What are those non-negotiables? And for me, those are non-negotiables right now.
That's awesome. And they should continue to be.
I'm going on a business trip coming up in a couple weeks, and it's a long trip. It's, I'm away for a couple weeks, and it's a long way to go. And I have said to the organizers, like, these are my non-negotiables. Like, I need to be able to work out. I have to be able to exercise. So like I have to find it in early morning or evening, but I have to. And they're like, okay, we can make that happen. And I, gave them my list. I was so proud. I've never done that before. So
I love that so much. It's kind of like this weird thing that I do. My CEO doesn't often book my hotels for me, but we're a very small company. But in the chance that he is taking care of logistics for a trip that we have going on, he knows that the first thing he needs to look at is, does this hotel have a gym? Because if this hotel doesn't have a gym, it's not working for me. Because I need to be able, the first thing I do every day, I'm an early riser. So for me, I'm up at 4 a.m. I am working out by 5, and I need that. I start my day with that. I do not have a complete or good day if for some reason my schedule is disrupted. And he's so good about that.
Well, I love that. And I did see one of your other posts where you were running.
Yes.
And you didn't feel like it.
I did not feel like it.
Yes. And I often, by the end of the day, I'm so tired. All I want to do is crawl up, put my pajamas on, and go to bed, of course. But I can't. And so that's when I work out. And I'd much rather do it in the morning if I could, but there's no way. So I love that. Like, I love that you're protecting your
well, listen, I mean,
sanity.
You know what's so crazy is that we're so willing to show up for everybody else in our lives. We are like, without a doubt, if somebody needs us, we're there. We show up in ways that we just can't fathom showing up for ourselves sometimes. And that always blows my mind, because why should I be giving more to anyone else than myself? I mean, like, listen, outside of my kid, but everybody else, like, no, I need to come first. So I've just prioritized that. And yes, you know what it is? It's showing up for yourself, but even when you don't want to, right? Even when you're tired, even when it's hard. And that's a commitment you make to yourself, right? And so honor your commitments. I believe in that.
I know this is a little side story, but I've been lifting weights. I remember as an athlete, we'd go to the weight room, we'd have a weight book, and it was painful. We had to write it all down. But now I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying lifting weights as well as cardio. And it's just mindset changes, little mindset changes that I encourage people to add, like one, even if it's one a month or one every 2 months, it works.
It makes such a big difference. I mean, listen, we could probably record a whole nother episode just on fitness and exercise. And honestly, like, that would be my next podcast that I would launch, would just be like professional women finding times to work out and like exercise, because that is really where my other passion lies. But listen, I want to kind of talk about the evolution of Natalie, right? So obviously you've got so much going on. You have this massive job. You're also doing coaching and you're investing in your community. You've got a home life. You've got all this stuff going on. But as you think about your future, what does that evolution look like for you? Like, what's next? What are some of your goals?
You know, I'm so excited about where technology and innovation is happening in our industry. I've done a lot of speaking on the whole AI piece. So I just brought some leading edge technology that we're piloting in IHG, but I'm just excited about learning, right? Like, continuously learning and then applying it. I have some things up my sleeve for my next journey, but what I want to share is that I'm never going to stop learning, and I'm going to embrace learning, technology, and change. And I'm going to continue to do that, because I think those are the things industry wise and for me that just inspire me and excite me so much.
I love that. But that's also what makes you a great leader, right? Like, I think that the leaders that are so committed to learning and their own personal growth, they're the ones that are the most successful. So I do believe that, never stop learning. So you've clearly got that embedded there, which means there's probably really big things on your horizon. And I cannot wait to see what you have in store next. But with that said, you've shared so much wisdom with us all today. Before we wrap up, what's the one thing you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I think the one thing is, like, really believing that you are in control of your journey, that you need to believe a little more in yourself and remove negativity, and believe that you have the ability to overcome the challenges. So believe that you can do what you set yourselves out to do. Each day for me, I set goals. I've done this since I was an athlete. What I can accomplish, what I need to do, and just believe in yourself and believe that you can control the journey, not someone else out there.
I love that so much. And this is why I tell women all the time, like, if you want something, you've got to paint your path for it, because these opportunities will not be handed to you, right? You've got to set out for that. So I love that so much, Natalie. And thank you so much. You have shared such a fantastic journey with us today. I've loved hearing it. I know our listeners loved hearing it. So I just want to thank you so much for sharing that all with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for what you do too, Kristi, because you spread the word, you spread the message. Keep posting as well. I love it.
Thank you so much. Well, listen, for all of our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please rate and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe on YouTube, and connect with me on LinkedIn. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Hi, guys. I want to share a bit about an organization that I support called Wednesday Women. They're on a mission to increase the visibility of executive women leaders that you should know, learn from, and be inspired by. On LinkedIn, they share the profile of 2 amazing women each week, on Wednesdays, of course. And now just imagine if we all followed, amplified, and nominated the women that we want to see more of. Their initiative provides examples of women CEOs, founders, sales executives, technical leaders, and so many more. By supporting Wednesday Women, you'll see more of these professionals in your social feeds, of course, but also on stages, podcasts, and panels. If you're interested in learning more and supporting their initiative, head over to www.wednesdaywomen.org or follow them on LinkedIn.